Welcome back to another episode of Morning Motivations with Matthew. This is the final episode of our series for the love of marriage, where myself, my wife, and my friends have actually come together to talk about marriage, our experiences, our ups, our downs, some of the things that we've actually overcome in our marriages. And this week, we're going to be picking a little bit up on finances in marriage, what women need most, which is stability. We'll be talking about death and estate planning in the marriage. What are the wishes of the other spouse? And in all honesty, whether or not we're actually able to really adhere to those requests, especially if they're not in an estate plan. And then some last words from my friends and my wife and myself that we hope that you take from this particular experience. So tune in to Morning Motivations with Matthew. Can't wait for you to hear this next episode. You're listening to Morning Motivation with Matthew. Morning Motivation is a podcast that helps you focus on setting your week in motion. Each episode, we'll dive into topics focused on being and remaining motivated. Regardless of what stage you are in life, we need men who are now more committed than ever and dedicated to not giving up, not just for those around you, but for yourself. We want you to live a life fulfilled and not allowing 10 or 15 years to go by wishing you've achieved that goal you had. Look, I'm not saying I get it right all the time, but what I can tell you is that I'm fighting to keep it together. I decided to start this journey into podcasting based on life lessons and gleaning from mentors who've helped me every step of the way. Remaining motivated is more than just saying you're motivated. It's a choice followed by an action. A choice to get out of bed every morning, not knowing what the day will hold. A choice to continue holding down the family and supporting everyone else mentally, emotionally, financially, and physically. Remaining motivated is knowing that regardless of your current situation, you are dedicated to achieving success and inspired by those around you who are making it happen. I'll be sharing my own stories and life experiences. Along the way, I'll have guests who can share insight and resources geared to helping us remain motivated together. I'm sure not all will agree, and I'm sure I'm bound to have some hiccups along the way. What I can promise is we will grow together while remaining motivated, all while keeping it together. Welcome to part 3 of For the Love of Marriage.
One of the big things that is hard, I think, especially as women, is to believe that somebody's going to care for us. And especially when you get children involved, because I know we were talking about earlier with the parenting, like how we parent different. And we do tend to be softer, but that gets into like that covering. Like, can I trust you to cover me financially? Like, if I do want to get some weed, like that's important to me. Well, it ain't now because I be sweating, y'all all in my head. But before, you know what I'm saying? Because y'all talking about the bonnets. Well, let me dress it up the way I want to dress it up, which means I might need a little extra here, a little extra there. But trusting somebody to invest in you that way, and especially if you don't have as much control over it, or trusting them not to be manipulative with it, is hard. Like I know in our relationship for a long time, he never even knew how much money was in our account. Now he was on the account, but he would go out and call me and be like, "Hey, can I spend $20?" I'm like, "Yeah." All right, I just didn't want to overdraw the account because it's like, now next week, that $20 could hurt something. Phone first.
Bank of America used to hit us hard.
Woo, Jesus.
Illinois.
Yes, Lord.
Yeah,
it was the
hard. That was like within the first 3 years.
3 years of our relationship.
It was it was a learning curve where it was like
right.
It's not working.
And then the other piece that I think is important with trust is that coaching piece. Mm-hmm. Like I think about you, Tal, like you work in the banking industry. So like you got a knowledge base that your average Joe do not have. Because most of us didn't grow up with parents who understood investment, who understood saving. They understood rob Peter to pay Paul to tell Steve, I'll get you on the 15th. Yeah. Like that's what we grew up with. So to have to trust you to coach me in that, to be like, okay, this is uncomfortable, but I have to trust your knowledge base and trust that you have my heart in the best interest of my heart and Like that's not always easy, especially when you like you asking me to do something that I ain't never did, and this don't math up here. And when you talking about this trajectory and the budget and I got the money now, I want to spend the money now, but I'm trusting you in this process to help grow me. So it's not easy, but it's worth it.
And part of the problem with trust is you have to wait for it. Like trust isn't like I'm putting this in front of you as an option, but then I have to wait to see the results. Like I can't just see that, I instantly trusted you and you instantly failed me. Now I know that I can. No, it's you find out later that whether you can or cannot trust.
Yeah.
I think what I learned and what I'm learning in regards to trust, and I'm not saying so in finances, but kind of like Matthew's very observant. Hands down, he knows me better than I know him. Just I don't know why, he just has a very, very observant spirit. So he has seen something about my business before I ever saw it, and I usually be like, no, I don't think I'm gonna do that. So like when
So she getting free business consulting.
I guess so. I never thought I it's not free. So but
Stretch that leg.
With that, like when I was first just doing private practice in a group, Matthew was like, I really think you should do a group practice. And I was like, no, I don't want the responsibility of people. And then maybe a year down the line, I really think I should do a group practice. Or no, go into private practice. And then when I was in private practice, he's like, you really should bring somebody on. I was like, no, I don't want the responsibility. Year later, I think I need to bring some people on. So it's like he has the ability to see these things. What I am trying to learn is, even if I don't see it right in the moment, trying to be like, okay, let me just, maybe. Let me put it on the shelf or acknowledge, you know what, you might be right on that. Because more so than not, especially when it's come to like my business, he's seen it.
Mm-hmm. But that's even just trusting the anointing on somebody. That God might reveal it here because he knows it's going to take longer in your heart to take root, to say, like, can you begin to speak life into it? And, thank you, Jesus, to fertilize that seed. Like the seed has been planted, but it still needed to be tended to before you could see the fruit of it. And we're not always great at tending to our own seeds. And thank God for husbands who are willing to pour. Like I think about, YouTube's music career. Like I look on Facebook, y'all all over the country. I said, y'all better sing for Jesus in another state. Hallelujah. But to have husbands who are like, I believe in the anointing of your writing, with the anointing of your voices. Go and do that. I think about like, ate good today because the pound cake ministry rested. It'll change your life, Lord. But to have somebody see that in you, because for you it was just a pound cake. But somebody to say, this is a business. Like this is this is an empire waiting to be birthed. We don't always see that in ourselves.
And then that's a good thing about God too, though, is a lot of times when we don't see something, like as husbands, like he could give it to the person that's closest to you that you will listen to.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I have been learning as well. Like sometimes you get, so like she'd tell me something, I'd be like, man, I ain't doing that. But in the back of my mind, like if you is in tune with God, you know a word from God.
Yeah.
Like no matter who it comes from, and especially when it's coming from your wife, you know that that's coming from the genuine place. Unless she's being petty, but it's coming from a genuine place,
Yeah, that's really about fulfilling purpose too, right? Mm-hmm. So your spouse has, a gift to kind of aid you and support you and steward you and being able to kind of fulfill your purpose. And I think that's what it's been for CG as she's gone into, and now I'm going into counseling, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of the preparation that she's had is helping me and will help me as I begin to kind of thrust into that. But the thing I think about, going a little bit back to finances, is I remember when we lived in our previous home and we talked about finances going in waves. And we were at a point where, we had this house, we was making decent money. And then, I don't know, it was like a shift, one of them financial shifts. And it's like, well, we ain't going nowhere. The house, we might have to modify the mortgage or something, but we're not going anywhere. And I remember we were in a really rough place financially, and CG had mentioned to me, like, I need stability.
Mm-hmm.
I need stability. Like, that's the one thing that I need. And it was like something just clicked in me. And then that's when things really began to take off for me in my career working in corporate America, where I've been able to really grow and excel in that space. But that came in my ability to really, one, hear her heart, and for her to trust that, okay, if I'm telling you this is what I need, then you're going to be able to do it and go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else to add as it relates to finances and trust? Yeah.
I think it's important to even trust, like, even when you don't see it, because that can be challenging and difficult. Because I remember last year I went back to nail school, got my license, and I was like, I really don't want to be in nobody's salon because I want to do it. I want to play the music. I want to play. I want to, if ministry opportunity comes forth, I want to be able to do that. And so Marcel was like, well, we can make the basement, because we had just remodeled the basement. You can make the basement a nail salon. And so I was like, okay, so it took some investment of money to, transform the basement into how we wanted it to be. And so even him trusting, that aspect of it is really encouraging. And I would say that if the opportunity comes along where something presents itself in that manner, to really just step out and trust that if God gave you the gift to do something,
He'll make provision.
Exactly. He's going to make the provision for us. And even just, I'm really particular, like, Lord, I don't want to, like, just anybody in my house, but he's been sending the right clientele that I can trust, and people that I don't even know, but word of mouth. I want to build my clientele, but I want to build it with the right people, right? So, and word of mouth has been just going, and people have been coming that have good spirits. You know what I'm saying? And so just really trust
the house left.
Right. Get all your olive oil out.
Right. And so now I get to return the favor with Marcel, with him stepping out in his process serving. He was like, I really think we should get a truck, so that I can do this, and we'll have to put a lot of miles on the car. I'm like, okay, Lord, another car, but but I'm trusting, that what he's starting is going to be beneficial for our family. So I just want to encourage everybody, even if you don't see it, trust it.
That's good. I'm waiting for CJ to take me off my job.
But this is the thing.
Be my sugar mama.
No, but I'm being so serious. He's saying that I want that. I desire that. I'm praying for that he gets to enjoy his days and not have to wake up he's still gonna wake up in the morning. I'd be the one to sleep in, but realistically, that he gets the opportunity to explore things that he would want to explore. If today I could take him off his job, I would. But we don't have that thing where it's like, you got to work or you got to do this. Because when I said, look, I ain't going back to no traditional job.
It took a few years, though.
I was preparing him. I was saying it, but it was going to happen. It was not like, I was telling him, hey, word up. Listen, I'm not going to work a traditional job.
Right.
And then the moment she got pregnant with Levi, she was like, I'm not going back.
I'm not going back.
I was like, ooh,
I prepared the others, PTO. So with that,
I love it. Prepare the others. Hallelujah.
So with that, I had Levi on a Thursday. But the thing is, we worked together to figure out how to do that.
Because we had already done it before, because I had left my job when we had Matthew. And I had stayed home. So as difficult as it was, I was like, I don't know how this gonna work. But the moment she said that, I got another promotion, and another promotion, and another promotion, and another promotion. So he just intricately worked it out, because like you said, we were working as a team.
So what I would say to people listening is that one of the things in your relationship is trying to trust that you can share your intimacy of your heart and the things that you desire and the things that you want. Because the realization is, if his heart's desire is like, look, I don't really want to be in this role anymore. We had a discussion about this week, and he was talking about his role, and I'm going to say it in this way. I told him, look, if you don't want to work this job, you don't. but stability is still one of my factors. We're gonna have to sell this thing,
Mm-hmm.
but we can make it work.
Yeah.
I said the difference is the first time he was like, "Look, I'm gonna stay home." We only had one child, and it was a baby, so we just gotta feed it and keep the party going.
Right.
Now we got 2 boys who like Levi is in a size 2 shoe, Matthew's in a size 3. How they that close?
Right.
So we gotta just do it differently.
Yeah. So last but not least, let's talk a little bit about death
Mm-hmm.
and estate planning. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this, because for years in the beginning of CJ and I's marriage, when I would talk about it, she refused to talk about it. And I think it's so important to talk about death and estate planning and really being able to identify what's going to happen in the event that something was happening to somebody else. I was listening to, I don't know if y'all seen Tabitha Brown, Fridays with Tab and Chance, and she was saying if something was to happen to her, she go first, and if a woman come after her husband, it's gonna be all 3 of them in the room, and she gonna be very good. She was like, put her on my side of the bed. What you doing right there? She was like, so for all the women out there, if something happened to me and my husband get remarried, I'm gonna be right there with you. I'm gonna spook you.
She said, not him.
And CJ and I have had that conversation. If something was to happen to me or to you, what would happen? And for me, I always say I don't want to be remarried. CJ know too much. We'd have been through too much. She would sing too much, vice versa. I'm not going to dictate what CJ can and can't do, but no man better not be up in my house. what I done built.
But I dictate.
Because I'm just like Tabitha. Woo. What you doing here? Look.
So for me, too, in my house, in the Essex house, I think that is my job. And like I tell her all the time, it's my job to, if I die today, that she should be able to live off me for the rest of her life.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I gotta get 10 insurance plans. She get those because ain't no way in hell another man is gonna come. Excuse me for saying that word.
Right.
You can say it just like you want.
Another man is coming into the house that I built.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way. So she married me for death do us part. That means that you is with just because I'm dead. I don't mean we ain't married still. That don't mean we ain't married still. We gotta go together. So you still married to me, technically. Oh man.
You're not a widow. You just wait.
I guess what I'm asking is, do you all have the conversation?
Yes, we definitely have the conversation. We've set up and we've talked about exactly everything that we have. It's if something happens to us, who's gonna take care of the kids?
Yep.
We got insurance policies. That's how people set their kids up for success.
Yeah.
Multiple insurance policies.
Yeah.
Hey, we get a raise. Hey, let's up that policy a little bit.
Yeah.
First I'm gonna go get a pair of Jordans or something. $30 extra a month for your children while you're gone is worth it versus them pair of shoes, and you already got 10 pair of shoes. I'm talking to myself.
Just minister.
It's worth it. It is worth it.
Yeah.
We've talked to, the kids about, hey, what you want? I told them I want to be cremated. I don't want you to spend all this money on all this stuff when you could get that money after I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'll just burn me up. It'll be all right. Keep the ashes. Remember
I'm
me.
the same.
Have the memorial and go on with your life. I mean, grief, because I'm gone. But what I'm saying,
I was important.
right. But I don't want all this extravagant horse and buggy. No, you ain't got to do all that. I know my life was that important. Yes, it was that important to you, but I want your life after I'm gone to be more important than this extravagant celebration that you used to have. Nothing wrong. I'm not no shade to nobody that wants to do. If you have the means and the money, by all means, go ahead and do it. But I'm saying I've shared with my family what I want and my preferences for when I do pass. So set your children up for success when you're gone. do everything. Go to the bank, set up, because if you die and nobody's at your bank account, you got to go through hell
Yeah.
To get your stuff.
to
Probate.
get your stuff. I have
And
a
they
friend
take
that's
your
going
money.
through that now.
Mhm.
Was married 20-something years and she was on nothing.
Wow.
So her
Wow.
husband is gone and she has to go through probate. His
While
stuff is just
grieving.
sitting there
While
Mhm.
grieving,
while grieving.
trying to get
Listen,
what's yours.
It
Car's
belongs to
broken.
me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
So do the necessary things. I know it's a hard conversation to
Yeah.
have. Do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was one thing CJ and I, like, after we had Matthew, it was a non-negotiable at that point. It was, we have to have life insurance. We have to begin to talk about what it is that we're going to do. And then when we bought this house, we were like, okay, well, we're building a real estate empire now. Like, we need to sit down with an attorney. And so we met with our attorney. We drafted up our last will and testaments. We talked about who would go to the kids. We talked about the assets that we have. We had conversation with my sister-in-law, like, she would take the kids and this is how we would. So, like, it's an important conversation because, to your point,
Yeah.
you don't want anybody else dictating, right, what's
Right.
going to be, what's going to happen with your family.
Yeah.
And
Don't just talk
really
about
important.
it. Write it
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Write it
It's
down.
good.
Make sure it's summarized. Yes.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
also, from what I understand, trust is a more reliable,
Yeah.
less if refutable. Like,
Mhm.
if you don't want to have to go through probate court,
Mhm.
you get a trust instead of a will.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then establishing it that way, it just says, like, you say what you want to happen, and you don't have to worry about legalese getting in the way of
Mhm.
like, well, technically you said,
Mhm.
you know, this, but you know, this word also applies to this,
Right.
and this too also.
Yeah. We put our entire house in trust just so that we can ensure that if something was to happen to us, our kids wouldn't have to worry about having
Yeah.
to uproot. You know, the plan is for them to stay where they
And
are.
for
Yeah.
us, like, it was easy for us to
Mhm.
have our conversation because it was just, you know, we just go notebook.
Yeah.
So,
It's like, we're gonna die together.
At the same time, just boom.
That was the plan. I don't know if Jesus gonna let us do it.
Right.
But
Right.
it for us, it has brought up a real reality of just health and your ability to insure yourself.
Well,
Yeah.
and our family's on two different sides of the state.
Right. So, you know, we got his mother who he has a young mom. Like, his mom, child, she's more spry than I am.
She's
Bless
a
her
year
heart.
older than me.
Not she a year older. Oh, Jesus. They gonna call the peoples.
So that's sarcasm.
Okay. All the sarcasm. All the sarcasm.
No, she had me when she was 16.
Yeah, so she's young. But like, we had this reality check of like insuring him at his size and his health, no problem. I can just write a check.
Mhm.
For me, it is way more difficult because I'm plus size and I have some medical issues. So it was, for us, it was like this cold bucket of water
Yeah.
of like, if something happens to him, well, yeah, I would get money, but my ability to keep earning wouldn't change. Like, I can still do what I need to do. Something happens to me, his whole life changes overnight. What happens to our children all changes overnight. And for me, that was like this reality check of like, oh, like, this is so much bigger than just this moment. This is like, how am I going to make sure my kids are okay when I'm no longer here to make sure my kids are okay?
Yeah.
Mhm. And real talk, that's what happened to me.
Mhm.
Is my father was the provider, and they didn't have a will or a testament, and his life insurance lapsed. So when he passed, when I was 16, we lost our home. And so the realization is, these are the things that part of being married is maturing. You don't get married and then you just simply are mature. You mature as your relationship matures, but these are some things that help you mature in understanding some of the hard things that may hit you as a married couple. And so it's imperative that we have those conversations, because most of the time, especially in African American communities, it's not talked about.
It's not. I would say my mom, when I went through the whole thing with my mom last year, it was so difficult because nobody had talked about anything.
Mhm.
Like, she didn't have anything written down. I mean, doctors had thought, I mean, you know, this is stuff you got to think about, even if you're a person of faith. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, what's going to happen if she passes? Nobody knew anything. Nothing was written down. And so as she was getting better, I was trying to have the conversation with her, but she still didn't want to have the conversation. It was like a denial of it. Like I'm still gonna be here. We're all gonna die. You know, so we have to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And it is still a struggle to have the conversation when I bring it up. So it's just important.
And I think that's like as people who are like back in the day, they didn't have that conversation. They didn't have life insurance policies.
Right.
You get a little 10,000, 20,000 policy, and it's nothing. But even as my aunt and my grandparents had passed away, like I was like, what do you want with my mother? I need to know. I need to understand because I don't want there to be any question about what direction we need to go. And so we had that conversation to say, this is what's going to happen. This is, so no questions whatsoever.
Don't rely on just your job's insurance.
Jesus.
Say that one. Say that louder.
Do not rely just on your job's insurance. Get a secondary. If I get shot tomorrow, it's gonna be a big thing. But the Williams are gonna be fine.
Right. So
don't rely on GoFundMe because I can't.
No, she said I can't.
If I see one more of y'all, GoFundMe page.
You gonna see.
He said you gonna see.
I can't no more.
But the thing is though, is that when you're doing it, like I think that us, like for me, like I'm so secretive. So therefore, I go do policies or do something, and she don't even know. Like she starts seeing random mail come to the house, and she be like, "Oh, it's mutual fund." I think that yeah.
Start carrying one.
Like I just want her to be aware of I don't want her to be aware of every move that I make financially. Because before it was just like, it's not because so like if something did happen to me, she gonna have to know who to go to get her.
Exactly.
She gonna have to know who's gonna be contacting her or whatever. But I think that's a big thing. Like I never was taught that growing up. Like when you die, you die. I mean, you're gonna. As long as I get my white horse with my white glass casket thing.
Come on.
And I want you to ride me through the north side.
So you just said something that secretive. I want to throw something out there, and I don't know if we have enough time to kind of discuss it. But what I will say is that part of marriage is covenant, and part of covenant is, and I'm going to be kind of deep with this. When they were walking with Jesus, they were able to just walk, it's free. But when sin was entered, it was this covering. It was a secretiveness that came with it. I think part of marriage is having a safe space where you don't have to be secretive, where you can be able to share the icks and the hurts and like, man, this is something that I went through. And I think that as you do that, especially if that person is also safe, it connects you, it helps you grow, and it helps you heal. So I encourage people to share freely with their spouse if they feel their spouse is a safe person. And if you don't, then the conversation should be, how can we create a safe space for each other so that our marriage can be like free?
Well, when I hear you say that, though, I think especially for men, y'all are not taught to be vulnerable.
Right.
Like from the time you big enough to hold something and fall, so that's it. Like walking off, big man. Like you a man. No, he's two. He's not a man. He's two. Let him be two, please. Because what happens is these hard little boys grow up to be hard men who then get wives who want them to be softer. They're like, I have no point of reference for being that person. And so like when I work with couples, couples of faith, I challenge you to start to pray together out loud, because that is this beautifully sacred place where you can begin to hear the concerns of your spouse's heart. Where I might not be able to come to you and say, I'm worried about X, Y, and Z, but okay, let's go to God together on this. Well, I can still hear what you're praying about, doggone it. So I'm like, oh, well, now I'm starting to understand, getting some insight into what's going on with you. So when you come home and I feel that heaviness, I know where to support you and how to support you until you learn that we don't have to wait just to be in prayer for me to be your soft landing place. And as women, we cannot defile that soft landing place, because when we defile that, their ability to pull a snatch back of like, you know, I ain't got to tell you nothing, right? Like I can go to work, bring home some money, and look at you and smile and go about my business like nobody you want to meet. So it's so imperative that we don't weaponize their vulnerability against them when we get frustrated, because that's a bond that you're severing, and only the Lord's gonna bring it.
Was when Doug was talking, he was saying, I mean, you said you were secretive. I feel like I don't know how much of it was necessarily secretive, or you were just making moves separate from her. Like, is it just you were making moves to make sure she was straight if you weren't here, and then
I just wanted to make sure she wouldn't take me out.
He didn't want to put a bounty on his head. He said, I don't want a bounty.
So then the next thing, so I don't know if the next part will help.
Duck and dodge, dude. Duck and dodge.
So, you know, and we grabbed like what was it, picture box or whatever.
Yeah.
And we have a picture box with like important documents in there. So it's like, if we need something important, we just go to that.
It's
one
all
source.
centrally
And then,
located.
You know, so that might be something to consider trying.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's one thing we got is at the crib. We got a place for stuff like that. That's one, But it's just for me. I just feel like the more policies I have, the better. That it is crazy because as men, we think we're gonna die first. Like it's the truth. Like I'm just saying. Like my job is, if I die, if something happened, God forbid, to my wife, I feel like I can still maintain life. You know, but if something was to happen to me, I want her to still be able to, you know, maintain life and never have to worry about a bill a day in her life for the rest of her life. I might haunt her for the rest of her life. You know, that's my biggest concern, and like I focus so much on that, and I forget to have fun when I'm living, which makes it a problem.
I will say, he's definitely a very, and like you said, Anthony, what he said is more moving, like, well, my baby's secretive up in here. Yeah, use the right words. But no, he definitely is more of a move. Like, his mindset is, I don't want you to worry about anything. I'll take care of it, and when it's taken care of, I'll tell you about it. So, you know, when it comes to certain things, he does tend to move like that more often. I have to, you know, it's like, there's certain things about, I'm like, no, we need to do everything together, but I also have to realize that part of his personality is who he is. So there's certain things where I'm like, I just let you do that. If that's what you want to do, you know, you got 9 policies. I don't know who's on 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay, we got, you know, whatever case is. So, because he will move, and he does, and that's one thing I tell him all the time. Like, you have to learn to enjoy life, like, because he's a very mind, which is one of the things that has always, you know, one thing I've always loved about him. He's a go-getter. Like, he grinds. Like, I grind, but he grinds. I said, gosh, like, and it's just like work. I said, but you don't want life to pass you by. It's more to life than working to provide. I'm like, we're good. I don't complain about none of these kids are happy. They don't know the difference between what's going on. As long as they're fed, they're clothed, and they are in a happy, loving environment, they don't care. Like, in his, like, I'm like, you don't have to think too much into it. You don't have to have this mindset of, oh, it has to be like, it's like, no, we're good. So,
that's good.
Yeah, he is. I will say, he starts to kind of learn to just let go and loosen up a little bit. Talking about, I ain't fun. No, baby, you the one needs to learn how to laugh a little bit.
And that comes
take the bonnet off.
That comes with
I'm buying him a bonnet for Christmas.
I am too.
You gonna get bonnet.
I was gonna say that comes with years of marriage and maturity. Even at 15 years, we're still learning each other and still changing. I mean, seasons change.
And you said, I think you said it. You evolve.
You evolve and you become another. I won't say another person, but you know who you are. It changes you.
Oh yeah,
you're not who he meant.
Right.
Yeah. Especially for those of you who finna hit another decade.
Look, even if you're not married, as you get older, you're gonna change.
Yeah, that's good. So in closing, just some closing remarks. You know, what advice would you give to individuals who desire to be married, or those who are married and kind of navigating or having a difficult time navigating their marriage? Advice would you give them?
My advice, because something we didn't do was when we got married, take some time to be married. Don't bring kids into the equation. I love my kids. Cameron. No, I'm just saying, but just take time to get to know each other, because being boyfriend and girlfriend or courting is totally different than being husband and wife.
Yeah.
Like, you really wanna start digging into each other and just learning. I mean, how each other move.
Yeah, that's good.
I would say, in agreement with what I'm saying, like if you can't, because a lot of times you do want to start a family right away, and that's fine. But if you have a choice, maybe just wait a little bit, kind of get to know each other, because when you're taking on so much at once, like you're married, you change your title, you change your name, you change this, everything is changing. It can't come sometimes and even if you wait, it can still, when you bring children in, it can be like, okay, we're trying to figure it out and things. So, we're just 7 years into marriage, so we're still young. We're the youngest. Hey, we're the youngest ones up in here. Okay.
I mean, the youngest marriage. But
I was going to say not in age.
You almost hitting that 40.
Oh, you're so excited. Bonnie's
roll your boat back. I said back. All right. Come on. But no, but still, with us still, being 7 years in, we're still learning a lot. Like Misha was saying, it takes a lot more years of learning. With us being so young in this marriage still, I would say definitely if you want to looking to get married and things, marriage is a great thing, but it's not just all fairy tale. It's work. It is work. It is the biggest job you'll ever have in your life. I don't care if you work in corporate America. I don't care what you do. It is the biggest job that you will ever have. It is two different personalities and people coming together. It's a learning process. It is a give and take. It is learning how to navigate through and just going with the mindset. Marriage is going. If you in it, you in it. It's like, look, we're gonna get through this thing. I may want to trip you today, but at the end of the day, you still husband. So, and just learning how to love each other through it. I learned how to love each other with where each other's at. Because a lot of times you come from two different backgrounds and two different ideas of what love is and how to show love. It can, you gotta learn those things. So, but if you want to learn it, it's worth it. It's worth it.
And I piggyback on what they already said, because when we got married, Tamisha set us up. Whoever set us up with this room with no windows, they set us up. So we went into it very quickly. It was very fast. Boom. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't take that time to really get to know each other, travel and stuff like that. So I piggyback on that. Most definitely learn to take that time, at least a couple of years, or however long you feel fit, it takes for you. And also, I would say work on your credit score. And that's what I failed to do before I got married. And so make sure you work on your credit score.
I'm sorry, one more thing. Can I have one more thing? Do not get caught in the comparison trap of other folks' relationships.
Come on.
Because what you see in public ain't always what it is.
Come on.
Find yourself, I just wish that it was like this and they were like this. Don't compare your marriage to anyone else. Don't let what you see fool you. And sometimes it is what it is. But a lot of times people stump for the vine because they want that perception of this is what it is and this is how it is. But the reality is, low key inside, they're ready to just snatch each other necks off. Like, I'm finna fight you. I don't want to be here anymore. So make your marriage work for you. Don't care about it. May take you 6 years to get to where somebody took 3 years. Who cares? Work on your marriage and focus on you. Don't let the hype fool you. Don't let people, because the thing is, you don't know what somebody went through to get to that happy place.
Come on.
I want to be there. Do you really know what they went through to even get to that place?
Come on.
I don't want to go through that.
Come
I
on.
go to jail. So
Suppressing these.
get it out. It's like you have to just work on you, be okay with it, and don't let anybody make you feel like, oh, well, you should be here and you're not here and it's not bad. Anyways,
I would add to that. For those who are dating or courting, whatever terminology you choose to use, ask questions. Like, ask those important questions, not just, the surface level, but ask those deep questions, because you might realize somebody that don't want kids, but you never talked about that. Now you're in a situation that can cause some conflict in the end. But spend time, ask questions, pray if you're a person of faith. Invite the Lord into that search process, because He will pair you with who you're supposed to be with if you're led of the Lord. Also know that marriage is not the wedding day. Everyone wants to be on blame about the wedding day. You spend thousands and thousands of dollars and all the hoopla, Instagram pictures and all that. But it's really the longevity of it. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Yes.
And it's a partnership, and you got to be committed. You have to go in saying that divorce is not an option. That has to be your mentality. I'm not getting into marriage just to try this out, and then 2 years later I'm on to something else. You have to be committed. That it takes maturity. If you're still immature, I'd say wait and mature up. Because marriage is not for the faint. It's not for the weak. It's a beautiful, blissful thing, but it's for the mature. But it's doable. It's survivable. It's doable. It's a beautiful thing. But just be clear about going into it.
And don't go into your marriage with secrets. Lay that stuff on the table to give that person an option if they can handle that or not. So make sure you don't go into it with secrets.
That's good.
I would say do the work. So many people get married talking about something. I found the part that completes me. Baby, y'all is two halves of a whole mess. So like if you have trauma, and trauma don't always have to be big trauma. But if you have things that have not been worked out, putting them under a microscope in this pressure cooker is only going to make that stuff come out. You think about a toothpaste tube. When you squeezing that sucker out, the stuff that went in first is the last thing to come out. So you have to make sure those first things that were implanted in you, you've dealt with those things. Or the very person who you're saying I love and I care for is the one who's going to be left holding that bag of trauma and just unresolved stuff. And I would also say, Black people heard a noise and then next turns.
Everybody
Keep your neck on slip. But I would also say invite God into your marriage.
Yes.
I know had we not gone through the marriage counseling that was Christian focused, Bible focused, when we started, we would be divorced now. It is because we understand the covenant of what we are in. It is because we learned how to invite God in when we don't want to talk to each other, when we are angry with one another, and allowing God to still speak to us and say, this is not what I have for you. You're making assumptions, you're filling in blanks, and I need you to hear me. Even if you can't hear him, hear me. And God will quiet your mouth. God will make you listen. But if I don't have that, if I don't have somebody who is warring on my behalf for my marriage when we can't, we don't survive. So bring your faith. Bring your faith.
I definitely agree. Because like one thing that I have thought about is yes, definitely. If you're not a believer, consider it and
try Jesus.
And in you considering, looking to Jesus more, look about the principles. Because Doug mentioned earlier about I can't remember what it was. It was about men, we think we're gonna go first, and I think a lot of that is because we tend to do the sacrifice play for our family. Like, we're the front line for any hurt and harm coming into our household. It's like you got to get through us first. Well, we the one to bear the burden of the sacrifice, and not to belittle anything the female in the household is doing, because females sacrifice just as much, it's just in a different way. But in terms of for the men, the men mindset of I'm going to sacrifice, I'm going to like there are sometimes I know for me, I don't feel like I have enough, I give enough. So all I have left is to sacrifice whatever it is that I do have for who I love, who I say is important in my life. But understand the fact that marriage is a covenant, and there's a whole separate thing. If you are interested in Jesus principles, go check out what a covenant is, and specifically a covenant marriage. And there's a blood ritual, but we'll get into that later. Probably scare some folk off to death.
I didn't sign them.
This is a cult.
Look bloody in here. I thought I got to deal with that once.
Y'all get on my nerves.
But Mary, also, Kareem said earlier, Kareem said that, he was talking about how marriage it gets monotonous a lot of time, and you gotta, that everything you do, going to church, you get set into your ways of, I sit here at church, I do this, and like with that you become more familiar, and that familiarity, it loses its novelty, like, and the novelty of your marriage, if that part goes, then if you're not pushing, dating or whatever it is that you have to do to make your marriage stay fresh, make sure that it stays interesting to you, then you're not going to stay mentally invested in your marriage, and you just gonna bail on it. Yeah. Understand the motivation of your spouse. Like, are they actually trying to harm you when they say stuff that actually hurts? Are they malicious? So take this in consideration when you have your fights, when you have your arguments. Are you looking to actually hurt them? Do you want them to hurt? And once you do make them hurt, are you done making them hurt? Are you going to keep pushing just because now that I got you against the ropes, I'm just going to tear you down as much as I can until I make you bend, because I want you a broken person. Once I break you, now I have a less value over you. So be careful what it is that you're actually doing, and be careful of and pay attention to what results you get out of it. Be honest with, I broke this person, and now I want to leave, and now I'm leaving them as a broken person for the next person to deal with.
Preach.
You gotta. They're human. You gotta communicate. Communication is, it's important, but everyone knows that. The kids are only going to be your kids for a certain amount of time. They're going to leave. They're going to establish their own life. They're going to establish their own family. Yes, they're, you might have a 2-year-old, but that 2-year-old will grow up to be an adult and look for someone to love them. Like, they're going to be there for a short amount of time. Yeah, love your kids, enjoy those moments, but at the same time, enjoy your wife. Lean into that. As your kids are growing, make sure that you're growing with your spouse. Make sure that you're doing stuff so that what your interests are also possibly lining up with the interests of your spouse, because when them kids are gone, it's just y'all two stuck looking at each other. Make sure that y'all have stuff to do together, or y'all not gonna stay together after them kids are gone. Like the comment earlier of comparison, make sure that you know what you have, because when you compare what you have with what someone else has, you don't know how much effort it took for them to get it, but you also don't know how much it takes for them to maintain it. Like, when we go home, like, we got a preface before the whole thing started. He said we got to go back home to our wife regardless of what we say. So, and just like when we out here, making our Instagram posts, it's like, yeah, we made our post, but we also got to get home and, have our conversation with our wife. Well, yeah, we looked great in that picture. And when when we're having dinner, it's like, all right, but, don't let your leg touch me, because, yeah, we did that picture earlier, but you drugged me out there. I ain't like that location, whatever. It's like, bickering back and forth. Make sure you're able to communicate so that when feelings do get hurt, you address it and it don't fester. engagement is a great time to find out important stuff. Like what Kareem said earlier, and like your kids, like how many kids do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a great time before you actually jump the broom or whatever. And then know yourself so that you know what it is that you're asking. Are you asking more than what you actually need of the other person? And then, you know, people say, you know, marriage is 50-50, but 50-50 ain't always a lived experience. Like if you only putting in half effort,
It's not 50-50.
If you only putting in half effort of your life, it's like right sometimes, yes. Well, even still, my thing is I gotta put in 100% into this marriage, and I expect her to put in 100% into the marriage. Like I'm not expecting to be like, okay, well, now that I get back home, now I'll put in effort into, you know, the marriage. But when I'm gone, that other 50% of my life is for me to enjoy. No, I want to develop my life. Like I picked her so that we can grow old together. So
that's good.
Come
That's
on.
good.
I'll say this really fast. Marriage is a continual learning process. We said this earlier, but your spouse is gonna continually change. They're gonna always change. It's important to learn. It's important to learn your spouse's love language. It's very important. My love language, because the natural thing for us to do is to love our spouse the way that we want to be loved.
Yes.
Right? And so that may not always be the case. My love language is not the same as Marcel's. Actually, ours are far apart. His is physical touch, and that's number 5 on my list. Right? So I'm not touchy-feely, so I have to be intentional about meeting him where he is with physical touch. And so I have to think about it. Okay, it's a good time to hold his hand. It's a good time to touch. It's a good time to rub his head, that type of thing. But when we first got married, my love language was gifts, right? But after we had children, it changed to acts of service. When you in the kitchen and you doing dishes, it's like, husband, get over here now.
Get sexy quick.
But that's what I mean when I say your spouse is continually changing. So don't always expect them to be. If gifts is what it is right now, 5 years from now, it may not be that.
Right.
So just continue. That's where you have to continue to learn them. You have to continue to have conversation with them about their needs and even their wants. And you being intentional about meeting them with what they need and what they want, and not being selfish with where you are.
Okay. So mine is a little curveball, okay? But my name is CG. What would you expect? It's different, right? So and I put this disclaimer. I love my husband. I choose him daily, and I want to continue to choose him. And there is a viewpoint that divorce is not an option, but it is. It honestly is. Every day it is, but every day it's a choice. So I'm speaking to the individuals that are in a hard spot. That yes, divorce is a choice, but you got to decide if you're going to choose your spouse. And it's not something like, okay, I'm going to choose them when they at the wedding day. No, because they are going to continually change. So are you going to choose the next person? Are you going to choose them in, a year down the line when they're like this, or when they like that, or when they have that job, or they don't have that job? If they parent this way or they don't parent this way, are you going to choose? And so divorce is a choice. I choose you. And so with that, determine if you're going to choose your spouse daily. Because if you feel as if divorce is not a choice, then are you in something that is optional, meaning I choose Jesus every day? Or it's I chose Jesus, but I'm going to live the way I want to. No, we choose our spouse every day, and we live that way. We live that way of I'm choosing you daily. With that, it's how to say it, for people that are in like a hard spot, if you guys choose each other, it could work. So I just want to give hope to people that if you felt like you were in something that felt not optional, That's a lie. The truth is you can choose, but are you going to choose them?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
And let me say this, I'm gonna throw in a curveball. If you're getting beat up,
Come on.
Speak
up out of there.
Speak it.
Run. It's no amount of prayer. Prayer can do it.
Come on.
Hear my heart now. Prayer can do it. But if you're getting beat upside your head, pray and get out.
Yes.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? Don't stay and don't risk your life. Okay. We're all about for the love of marriage. I understand that, but there is a choice that you have to make for your health and your safety, and for your sanity.
Yes.
Okay, and listen, if you have kids, you don't want kids burying their mother when she had a choice to get out of something, and she made a choice to stay because people told you to pray about it, and people told you it'll work out. People told you he'll change. No, you get out, and if he changes for the better, down the line, okay. Reconciliation may be possible, but right now, leave.
It is not just physical abuse.
Right.
It's also verbal and all the other
Sexual abuse and all
Yes.
kinds of things.
Yeah, that's good.
Because remember, covenant is for love.
Right.
People choose a covenant because of love. It is not just a sacrifice, but it is a sacrificial love. And so getting beat on is not love.
No.
Being belittled down to the last bit is not love. Yes, amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you all so much. I am so appreciative that you all joined and being able to speak and talk about you all's experiences with marriage. And to those of you who had an opportunity to actually listen to the episode, please take an opportunity to, really just consider, your decision. If you're married, if you desire to be married, my advice is simply just to work on you.
Yeah.
Work on you, identify and learn who you are. I married very young. I have no regrets about marrying very young, but I would definitely say work on you because it is important. It is going to bring value. It's going to add value to the marriage. And thank y'all so much. I really love y'all.
We love
Right.
y'all too.
Thank y'all for listening.
Black love.
I certainly hope that you enjoyed this month's series on For the Love of Marriage. Myself, my wife, my friends, the Colemans, the Essex, the Williams, and the Pattersons appreciate you for tuning in, listening to our hearts, hearing about our experiences, listening to our laughter and our fun that we have together. And we definitely hope and pray that you actually took something from this experience. I'm so elated that my friends took the opportunity to actually spend with me this month in this particular series focused on marriage. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Happy Black History Month. Because again, without our people, we would definitely not be here today. So I love you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. And I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful morning and day to come. Thank you.